We watched him stand tall on the Arizona clay. Christian Walker at first, where he'd always play, with a heart full of fire and a glove made of gold. Now the story's been written and it's feeling so cold. From the desert nights to the Houston lights, he's chasing dreams under different skies. The fans back home were holding tight to the memories of those diamond nights. Goodbye to Diamond, where the sun always shines, where you gave your all and made the game divine. Now you're swinging for Houston under their starry glow, but Arizona's heart won't let you go. I see your shadow at first, where you made those plays. Every diving stop still takes my breath away. But now the Lone Star's calling, you've answered their tune, while the cactus blooms here under the moon. Goodbye to Diamond, where the sun always shines, where you gave your all and made the game divine. Now you're swinging for Houston under their starry glow, but Arizona's heart won't let you go. So here's to you, Christian, we'll be watching still, hoping you find your field of dreams wherever it is. But deep in the desert, where the memories flow, Arizona's heart won't let you go.
Welcome on in, everybody, to a little bit of a emergency pod here at Dbacks Dispatch. We appreciate everybody, jumping into live, joining us in here. And as you probably saw from the intro video right there, it was a little bit of speculation. We kind of all, planned for it. We talked about it in multiple pods and all that, about, the possibility of Christian Walker leaving. I know a lot of us probably had like a team like the Yankees, maybe even the Mets in mind. But it's confirmed. It's a reality now. As Christian Walker has went on to the American League, he's joining the Houston Astros as he signed a 3-year, $60 million contract. And the Gold Glover, again, received the payday that he rightfully deserves after playing 8 seasons in the desert, 5 full seasons, but again, parts of 3 other in there. So it hurts now that's reality, but, it's not too surprising. The D-backs will receive a compensatory pick that will come after the first round. It doesn't say exactly what round it is, but at least the nice thing is guys like Brandon Pfaadt and even some other guys that Hazen has drafted. I believe Dalton Varsha, who he traded to Blue Jays 2 off seasons ago, I believe he was a second rounder, if I'm not mistaken. So there is some good talent to be found in those other rounds. So, it's at least something coming back to the D-backs. But the D-backs do now need to officially pivot into another direction to fill the role that Walker will be leaving behind in not only just the lineup, but in the field, as nobody in baseball has been better defensively at first base than Christian Walker over the last few years. And the question that I kind of had in mind, that I know a lot of us have in mind, that I have for Gabe, and also anybody of you, again, anybody chilling, listening in the live chat, or if you're in YouTube afterwards and you're in the Discord and you want to ask us there or give us your response. But like I said, we already prepared ourselves for the possibility that Walker wouldn't be returning to the desert that he called home for these 8 seasons. But now that it's an actual confirmed reality, what are your thoughts and feelings on this deal? And then where do Mike Hayes and the Diamondbacks pivot from here? Whether it's like Goldie Pavin platoon, Tim Tawa Pavin platoon, Carlos Santana, Josh Bell, or even like other outside trade options. I know, at least for the contract, I was a little bit surprised that, especially with a lot of the news and the rumors that Christian Walker was looking for a 4-year deal. I kind of figured that, if that's the case, the D-backs would probably be priced out of it. But seeing that it was a 3-year, $60 million deal, I was a little bit kind of surprised that the D-backs couldn't try to match that. And I'm kind of, interested to see what, Gabe's opinions are. So Gabe, floor is yours again. Say, what were your initial thoughts and feelings to the deal? And then where do the D-backs, kind of go from here?
Yeah, I was confused. I was like, 3 years, $60 million. I felt like that was the absolute bottom level of this contract. Like we felt like 4 years, 40 million or 80 million would be the top end of this deal. I don't know why we couldn't, afford a $60 million deal, but I'm really frustrated right now. Yeah, I really don't know what to say. Like, this shouldn't have happened, and I'm really disappointed this happened. And I hope Hazen's, statement isn't just that, oh, well, we felt that we had an internal option available, because we don't have an internal option available. The best we can do is 3 years, $60 million, and the Astros offered that, and I don't understand why we couldn't match that. Um, yeah, I mean, I guess so far that's my initial reaction.
Yes, it did seem like it was kind of in the D-backs ballpark price range. I know even in like some of our previous pods when we were speculating, talking about what Walker could potentially get, just going off of what his rumored value was going off Sport Track or Spotrac, Track. Apologies. And what some of these other first basemen were getting, like the fact that it was rumored guys like Paul Goldschmidt and whatnot could get like a 12 to 15-year $1 million deal. We expected Walker maybe hoping for 20 to 25 million, but the fact that it's just $20 million in like annual average value, I don't think there's any like extra incentives and all that. And again, I get by the end of his contract, he will be 37 years old. But with the DH being, obviously he's in the AL, so that's where the DH has always been. But with the DH being in both leagues, it didn't like he could still be a pretty productive hitter as a DH role if his defense did end up kind of taking a little bit of a hit as he did age a little bit. But like even as in some of those videos that our lovely producer Josh cooked up with, absolute banger song, banger video, got a little emotional the first time I kind of like watched it in our group chat. It definitely is going to suck because again, like 5 years of him as our starter, 8 years with the team. I believe there's an article that Jack Summers put out maybe, and then there's one on AZ Snake Pit as well. Which again, go check out AZ Snake Pit again if you guys are the first time in here. Great content over there, especially once we get into spring training and the season starting. Going to be a lot of stuff in there. But even one of those where it talked about he worked his way from being a bench bat to being, the guy that he was and the guy that a lot of us all, kind of fell in love with. And the question on a lot of our minds, just like Justin in the chat here is bringing up, is what will the D-backs do next? And that's definitely going to be at least I'm hoping, a sign that, now that like we even talked about in our show last night, we were waiting for this kind of news to drop. We were waiting for, we would assume that the Christian Walker news would be where the D-backs offseason actually officially would like kind of pick up the pace a little bit, whether he did sign back with us or as we're now dealing with going to a different team. I'm not sure exactly what the best option is. I know, like we've talked about it plenty of times, like you could try to do a Paul Goldschmidt, Pavin Smith platoon, but even as I'm looking on MLB trade rumors right now, there are a few other teams, not just the Yankees, that are interested in him. I know the Yankees were, I believe in a different tweet earlier today, saying that they're prioritizing Paul Goldschmidt and Carlos Santana, but now on MLB trade rumors, I'm seeing that the Mariners, Nationals, and Mets have also joined the group of teams that have interest in Goldie. So it's not like it's going to be, oh, cool, the D-backs are the best fit. Like it could genuinely come down to a bidding war. It could come down to where Goldschmidt or even Santana, some of these other guys, feel like is the best fit. And I know we kind of talked about it in the group chat. It's just a little bit frustrating seeing how Ken Kendrick is only really willing to, and again, I know they missed the playoffs, but they missed it by one game. Like it's not like they were a complete utter disappointment. It's not like they won only like 75 games. And the money was absolutely wasted. It's one of those where I'm tired of seeing the team only want to spend once every 5-6 years. Like I know that a lot of, I even saw on Twitter, a lot of people were kind of thinking that, oh, this isn't worth it. He's going to be old. He's going to be too much money for him. And like again, I could see some of the viewpoints and the standpoints people have with it. It could be a little concerning, but I don't know, because some of the names outside of like Goldschmidt and Santana don't really. I guess like they're not like the big splash signing, and I know it's not all about the big splash signing. Hayes and the GM has to be smart with what he does, and like I totally understand that. But it's one of those where, I mean, if we don't get Goldschmidt, and we've talked about it plenty of times, Pavin Smith getting a lot more at bats. Like I know he finally had a good season last year, but that's his good season in first good season in 4 or 5 years. So it's not like we want to put all of our eggs in one basket with him. And then even a guy like Josh Bell, yes, he was pretty solid, but again, was solid and limited to playing time. So I don't know. For me personally, again, I would still rather have Goldie back. I know that's a little bit more sentimental value. Again, he's still my favorite player of all time, and all that. But I'm kind of curious, Gabe, which one of those names do you kind of picture, or which kind of those names do you at least see the D-backs going for to try to fill the very clear hole that we obviously have at first base, whether it be obviously the guys mentioned, or even I think Goldschmidt happened on Twitter, brought up the possibility of maybe trading for Alec Boehm and trying to put him at first base. Like, I don't know. What are your thoughts on like who the Snakes could try to get to fill that spot?
I mean, I guess for me it would be Santana just because he has a defense and he won a Gold Glove. And Goldie, I love Goldie. I love him with all my heart, but he's had a lot of struggles with his defense. So Santana would be my number one pick. But I guess I would hope the package for him wouldn't be too much. Bohm, he had like a couple of really good months after the first couple of months of the season. He really struggled, so I don't think he would be the number one choice for the D-backs. But they got to figure out something soon because I know our infield defense is pretty good, but Walker really makes this defense into a Gold Glove defense, and as of right now, I don't think we have any option that could turn whatever guys we have, whether it's Perdomo, Cattell, Gino, whatever it is, Pavin. These aren't Gold Glove guys the same way as Walker is. So they really got to make a move soon because, I mean, we're late into the season. I know people keep saying, like, well, we're not into, December 25th yet. We're not into Christmas yet, but how long are we going to keep saying that? Or how long are we going to keep saying, well, it's not Christmas time yet. It's not New Year's. It's not February yet. How long are we going to keep saying that same tired motto? And at some point, we're going to have to make a real move. And I think at some point, that move is going to be Carlos Santana or any other move. But right now, I think for me, it's Carlos Santana.
Yeah, I think the move like Carlos Santana, I know he is, especially looking at the numbers, I think that would be a pretty solid fit. I don't think it'd be as expensive maybe as Goldschmidt. I believe he's a little bit older than Goldschmidt is, if I'm not mistaken. But he's been consistent, kind of like what V was saying in the chat here. I think Goldie back for real at this point. Pavin's just not consistent enough yet, and I think that's kind of the big key is consistency. And Santana over his career has been a very consistent, reliable hitter. He's put up some of the same numbers. And I think he's, even like Rugnar saying in the chat here, to be honest, I think Santana's the answer numbers wise. Exactly. Like there is a lot to like about it. But again, it sucks because there are a lot of teams out there that are looking for first base help. So it's, like kind of like to Gabe's point is, yeah, we know that, especially we talked about in last night's show, Hazen does a lot of his moves and a lot of his cooking, post January 1st when the new year starts. And obviously we have plenty of time until spring training starts, but sometimes I feel like it's better to get ahead of some of these issues and some of these things that they need to kind of address, because you don't want to be like, I've done it before where I'm like, oh, that's a really good deal. Honestly, I'm going to look into doing that. And then like 2 weeks later, like, time goes by. And the next thing I'm like, oh, what, they don't have that deal, that sale's not there. It's not 50% off. Like that's not an option. That's not an availability anymore. And I know it's completely different with like free agency and baseball and sports in general like that. But it's definitely going to be one of those where, I think that the longer you wait, the more slim pickings you're going to have to deal with. Like, I think if we have to keep going on, we're going to see guys like Goldschmidt and Santana, go off to teams like the Mets, the Yankees, because I know the Yankees are still looking at first base options, the Nationals, the Mets, to where there's a good chance we could be stuck with, like, even like I mentioned before, Josh Bell as an option, which wouldn't be terrible. Me and my buddy Brad were talking about in a text message that he was solid, but I just think that's one of those, like, it's like a C option, a D option. Like, it's not your first, second, or third pick that you're really going with. It's like you're kind of having to settle in a way. And even if like a guy like Tim Tawa, I believe he'll get a shot in spring training, an invitation to camp. And he had some pretty impressive numbers in Reno and Double-A last year. So again, maybe he does, earn that spot, and they do end up going with the platoon of him and Pavin first base. Because I believe in some of the Discords we're in, that was kind of a topic of conversations. And again, I don't hate it. It's just, again, the unknown. There's not the proven track record that we've seen, like with guys that even like Sweet Thursday brought up on Twitter in the comments is we lost our team captain with Walker, and that was kind of one of the other things that hurt is even Gabby Moreno, I believe, on his Instagram posted where he was like, Walker deserves it. He's gonna miss him. He loves him, and I think that's how a lot of players in the team are going to be feeling. I know people were sad, and people were kind of like missing Tommy Pham after the 2023 season for like the veteran leadership that he brought to the team, and I think we're going to see a bigger impact with Walker just not being there. I think it's going to be rough, but again, it's done, it's over. I know the move's pending a physical, so it's not fully written in ink, but I don't think there's going to be anything popping up like a Carlos Correa situation. So it's now done, sealed, and delivered. We're gonna have to move on, and I hope that it's again. I would love to see some news pre-Christmas and have Hazen, do some more of the cooking and some more of the, the roster building. Like again, maybe even get us a little hype. Go get a guy like Tanner Scott because the back end of the bullpen is still a area of concern, or at least an area that even Hazen himself said that they're trying to address and trying to really shore up. And he's another guy that's going to be a pretty hot commodity, especially with the Dodgers losing out on Devin Williams. I wouldn't be surprised if they try to have a bigger push for him. So it's one of those where, again, we know we're not technically running out of time. We have at least like 2.5, almost like 3 months basically until we have to really worry about the roster being settled. But the longer we wait, I feel like the less impressive that we're going to see these moves potentially being able to be made.
Yeah, and you're right. Like we've talked about it before, like the dollar store moves that Mike Hazen has made before, after the new year, and we're slowly inching towards that new year. And it's like, what are we gonna do? We lost Walker at this point. What's next? What's next? Like, is Mike Hazen gonna come out and say, we believe in the team's internal guys? Is that what he's going to say? Because he said that before and it hasn't worked out for this team as much as we would hope. So I would hope that they can make a move, like bring in a goalie, bring in a Santana, bring in a guy who can shore up this defense, who can hit for average, like whatever it is that we need them to do. Because I love Gino, I love Perdomo, I love Cattell, but these aren't the best, at their position in the league. Like they make a lot of mistakes, and Walker has been there for year after year, being able to pick up their mistakes, as he's been able to pick out, ball after ball after ball that they throw in the dirt, they throw up too high. Like we saw during that Giant series, like those balls were not thrown very well, but he was able to grab them, pick the guys out anyway. So I would hope that they have, maybe an internal option. But as of right now, we don't have anybody in the minor leagues who can shore up these guys' defense, and we have to go get somebody. We have to make a move. Like we can't keep shopping at the dollar store. Like this can't keep happening. Like we're supposed to be a premier playoff team, and so far right now we're acting like we're the Oakland Athletics or the Chicago White Sox.
Yeah, so I know we talked about it, or I mean, even mentioned it on last night's show. The fact that we're getting outspent by the A's is, again, good for the A's and all that, but it's one of those where I'm like, really? Like again, really? We're gonna actually let this happen? We're only 2 years removed from a World Series appearance. Well, not even full 2 years. We're a year and a half removed from a World Series appearance, and we're gonna go back into, again. They never use the word rebuild, but it seems like they're going back into a retooling mindset, and I hate that. It's almost like loser mentality. It's almost like accepting. You're like, oh yeah, as long as we make the bottom dollar, meet the bottom line as a business, we're not losing money. Then it was a successful year, and it's like. It's not. And like Cosmo brings up in the chat, they really just need to bring up Grichuk, or need to replace Grichuk and Walker's right-handed production. And I would definitely agree, especially like, I think Goldie would be, again, a solid option for that, especially you could throw him in at DH. I know Josh Bell, I think, faced lefties pretty well last year. So again, if we did have to go with him, it would be the dollar store transaction that we're not too big of fans, but at least, you could see something good out of it. Maybe even if JD Martinez is out there and he, for the right price, you could bring him back. But one of the things that I did kind of at least want to like circle back on, because we talked about it a little while ago before, was John Gamadoro of AZ Sports put out I think it was a tweet, maybe even like a month ago or just 3 weeks ago now, where he mentioned that the D-backs would only be able to basically retain one and not both of Christian Walker and Jock Peterson. And now with Christian Walker, again, officially being off the table and going to a new team, I think that the D-backs should definitely be a little more aggressive with Jock Peterson because, again, I think a platoon DH of, JD and Jock or Goldie and Jock with Goldie getting some time at first base would be pretty solid. That bring back Jock. A lot of the fans like him. I think he did really solid here. And worst case scenario, I don't think it's the best option, but worst case scenario, he probably could fill in at first if there were injuries or anything. I wouldn't want that at all because we know that Jock is not known for his defense, but it's still one of those where I think his bat's worth it alone. And it's just I want some kind of big splash. I want some kind of big thing. Like we don't want to lose all of the power that we had last year. I know that we even mentioned Gabe, you were kind of very critical of it at the times where they did definitely live and die by the home run. But it's still nice to have home run power. You still want to have slug in your lineup. You still want to be able to have guys that are threats to send the ball out of the ballpark anytime they're up at the plate. And that we're going to be missing a big chunk of that. Obviously, Walker was, with the time he missed, he could have probably hit 30 home runs. But there go like 25 home runs from there. If Jock actually walks, there goes another 20 something home runs. I think Grichuk had like 15, maybe almost 20. Like there's going to be a lot of work that Hazen's going to have to do to fill in here. And it's just, even like Rudner's saying, lock Jock down fast. It's going to be crazy because even like as Ashton's bringing up in the comments, it's crazy to think that we're behind the Giants in the NL West now. Like, the Giants got better. The Padres, I know there's a lot of rumors about the Padres trading off some of their players, but it seems like they always make moves to get better. And even when they do trade away players, they still have some pretty young guys that, like Jackson Merrill last year, that stepped in and played a huge role. So the NL West is just going to get tougher and tougher, and we can't stand pat and just like hope that we can use, what was the old Flex Seal, the whatever that old commercial where, oh, you can fix it with this, just slaps a thing over the leaking water. Like you can't always just plan on that happening. And even like Gabe said, is sometimes the internal options do step up, but over the last few years, we've seen the internal options not really, kind of step up in the way that we've wanted, or they only step up in a month or two and then they kind of disappear. They kind of go back into being that, like, again, I mean this in the nicest way possible, but some of that like middle of the tier to lower middle tier kind of production. Like even Jake had it where he was solid for a month and a half and then he just fell off a cliff.
Yeah, and we've seen it with like guys like Blaze and some other guys in the organization. Like they fell off a cliff like pretty quickly, especially after a couple months of this, being up in the major league. So what's the options here? Is it Lawler? Is it Troy? Like, what are the options here? And I would rather know beforehand, like from Mike Hazen, like, okay, Hazen, what are you doing? Are you going to try to make some actual moves, or are you going to try to develop? Because I think that's two different teams that we're talking about here at this point. Like, is this a development team, or is this a team that's ready to compete this year? And he keeps saying over and over again in his radio interviews, 2025, it's our year, this and that. Like, we are here, we are ready to compete. But from these moves, it's like, clearly you're not. Like, you're not getting the guys that are available to you. So I would hope they can get Jog, they can shore up this defense, and hopefully maybe put Lawler at third or at first, and then Gino at third or at first. But I don't want to see Pavin Smith out there every single day. Like, I do like Pavin. I do think he's a good utility guy, but that's all he is. He's a utility guy. He's good for very certain situations, but that's not who he is. He's not an everyday guy. I feel like Goldie is still an everyday guy. So if they can get one of these guys, make one of these moves, I think the fan base and all of us at large could still feel real good about this team going forward.
Yeah, so because even one of the tweets that you put out from our account, which again, by the way, if you guys aren't following us on Twitter, even like the Jack Summers replied to us, hey, we got some ones that'll make you laugh. But one of the ones that Gabe put out, I believe, was he quoted the D-backs tweet yesterday where they're like, "Take a minute, pretend it's not the middle of the offseason. It's 6:40 p.m. on a Friday night, and you're at Chase Field." And Gabe put his twist on it with, "It's 6:40 on a Friday night. Pavin Smith is a starting first baseman. Ildemaro Vargas is DHing, and it's 95 degrees inside Chase Field with 75% humidity, where, hey, at least if it's hot in there and the roof is actually good, we can open the roof. But if that's like our best acquisition of the offseason is just getting our roof back to actual full functionality, it's it's gonna be it's gonna be disappointing. Like it's not gonna be what we want to see. And again, like and like you said, or Rugnar saying in the chat here, it's our year, but we're letting the strongest offensive player walk. And again, I get maybe who knows, maybe he felt disrespected by the qualifying offer, and he expected the D-backs to put more of a serious offer out on the table for him, and that could be the case, but from all we've heard from reporters, people that have been around Walker for these many years, he doesn't seem like the kind of guy to take things in a petty way like that, or be slighted. Um, so like I don't think that's the case, but it is still rough. And then even to answer Tass's question here in the YouTube chat, is Bell still on the team? I do not believe so. I believe when we traded for Josh Bell, it was kind of like a rental to where he is still a free agent, so he is still out there, and that is again probably an option that Hazen and them have on the board. But I just don't know if it's the option that either we're going to be left with, or where we're going to be happy with. Like we're not too sure. And then another one of the questions in the YouTube chat we have here from Justin was, do you think Paul Goldschmidt will come back to the D-backs if Peter Santana signs with the Yankees? And we kind of talked about it a little bit earlier, but I mean, yeah, again, I'd be okay with it. I think it would answer a few more needs, and I think that's probably the best case scenario, as even Via, I believe, said in the chat earlier. But we'll just have to wait to see, and hopefully we don't have to do too much more waiting, because it is going to be, it is going to be a little bit rough. And the Riley does also bring up a good point here in the YouTube chat, saying, reminder that he's 34 and has a growing strikeout rate, and that is very true. There were some of his numbers over the last, I believe, from 2021 or 2022 through 2024, that it did see a decline, like in his a decline in areas like his OPS, I believe, home runs, slugging, batting average, things like that, and then a rise in things you don't want to see, like strikeout percentage. That's very valid. That's a very good point to bring up, and probably something that the D-backs and front office did have on their minds when they were kind of making these moves and trying to figure out how they want to build this team for 2025. But it's still one of those where even like actually oh, so okay, Riley, you're saying that it wouldn't have been smart. So, and again, there's we never know. We could have be like, I know there's a time, I believe, in like 2020 and 2021 where a lot of people were probably like, dude, Walker, like we need to let you go. Like you're not doing what we need to do, and that's very fair. It could have been one of those where maybe we do dodge a bullet, but it just sucks to see that the D-backs always just let their first baseman go, or let some of their better players walk. And I guess to kind of stay a little bit more on Christian Walker, because again that's just what the whole topic is for our little emergency pod here. The follow-up question I had for you, Gabe, and obviously all the you guys listening in the chat and all that, because you guys are fans, you guys go to games probably just as much as we do. I was going to ask you is, will you be giving Christian Walker a standing ovation in his first game back at Chase Field come, I believe it's June or July, July 21st to the 23rd. I could have the dates incorrect when I checked on the schedule, but I believe that's when it's going to be here, 7/21 through 7/23, when the Astros visit Chase Field again. Because per Dalton Feely's tweet that we have here, let me find it and get it up here. So Christian Walker ranking in D-backs franchise history, he's fourth in home runs with 146. He's fifth in adjusted OPS plus at 114, sixth in B-WAR 15.3, seventh in RBI 442, ninth in games played at 819. And as Dalton said, was holding out hope he'd return free agency, couldn't turn down that offer. And again, rightfully so. Rightfully so, yeah. Rightfully so, because again, he is a little bit older. He finally hit free agency at 33, 34, so I get it. But again, at least Seawalk, got something for it. But again, the question: do you guys plan on giving him a standing ovation when he does return to the desert, or is it one of those where you might give him a little clap and you're like, cool, you didn't put up Goldschmidt numbers, you didn't put up Gonzo numbers to not deserve a standing ovation? But to me, I definitely think that a standing ovation is deserved and earned for him.
Yeah, I think a standing ovation is warranted for Walker. He came in with an impossible task of replacing Paul Goldschmidt. He's a legend in this team. He's probably going to be going to the Hall of Fame as a Diamondback, and Walker was able to fill in for him. He was able to win 3 Gold Gloves. I will be standing and applauding for him. I will be giving him a standing ovation. If other fans want to or don't want to, I also won't argue with them, because maybe until we find out all the details of this deal, from Hazen, 3 years, $60 million, this team could have done that. I don't know why they didn't do that. And if they just say like, well, we offered him 2 years, 40 million. I feel like they could have gone for 60 million in total. But if they didn't, then can't really, I guess, fault Walker for that. I guess the criticism will come to the team in general.
Yeah, say even like some of the the people are like Riley Dunn saying yes, but I don't know if he's going to get a massive one. He didn't have that easy culture connection that Goldie had, and that's a very fair point. And even like Zed saying we'll give him a standing ovation for his first at bat. After that, booing forever. I still won't boo him, but I get the point where it's like, hey, I'll give him a tip of a cap. I'll give him a shout out for what he did here. But after that, it's it's not like he was Goldie-esque. He wasn't as loved and as cherished by a lot of the fan base. And then I like if he's coming here is I clap anything for him. And that's, yeah, you know what? Honestly, same. I'll I shook ass for Jordan Montgomery. And if Walker is, coming back here, I do it for that man because, I am going to miss him. But were there any, kind of final thoughts? Obviously, Gabe, I know this was a topic that we kind of touched on a lot throughout here in the off season. And it's something that we've mentioned multiple times. We don't want to fully beat the dead horse like Zed does want to do with the seeing if Christian Walker can get the trash can code from the Astros. But is there any final thoughts that you had on obviously us, actually having to fully say goodbye to our 3-time Gold Glover?
Yeah, this sucks. I mean, obviously it's not going to hurt as much as getting rid of Paul Goldschmidt, but it still hurts. We lost a Gold Glove defender, and I don't know if we can replace that. Maybe Santana can replace that, but it hurts. And I'm not going to lie about that. It really hurts, and I don't know what this team's going to do. If this team's going to keep trying to, keep going for it. Are we going to keep going for it? We're losing guys left and right. Like, what are we doing, Hazen? What are we doing? Are we going to try to compete this year, or are we going to pivot and go for the next year?
Yeah, so they I don't want to turn into the A's where we're just letting all of our best guys, go to other teams and all that. Like we got to figure something out. And I do agree. Like, we can't just keep letting all these guys walk. We got to figure something out. Like I know we don't want to waste, Corbin's prime because at this rate, when his contract and his extension ends in like 2031 or whatever it was, who knows? Maybe they fully just let him walk to another team and we have to worry about another fully beloved player, going and leaving the desert because our ownership here is more worried about, their baseball card and giving all their money to politicians instead of actually paying for the fucking team that they own. But, again, that is maybe a topic and a discussion for another time. But again, we do appreciate each and every one of you guys for stopping through here. Zed, Tass, Riley, Sweet, Aston, Zed, Rickety, V, Justin. I want to make sure I get everybody. Rugnar, Cosmo. I know Cruz is in here being a little bit of troll earlier, but hey, Cruz, we do love you still, even though you're our resident Dodgers troll. But again, hopefully we do see some more like actual D-backs news so we can have an emergency pod. I like how we talked about when Brandon was going on his trip that we were like, hey, maybe when you're gone, we'll actually get some news. And we officially did. Sadly, it's not the D-backs signing somebody, but who knows? Maybe this weekend, maybe before he's back, we'll get another one. And Gabe and I will be back for another, emergency pod. But again, in the meantime, we do appreciate every single one of you guys for stopping by. Make sure you guys, again, check us out on Twitter to kind of stay in touch and stay up to date for whenever we're going live because we do post on there. Check us out on the Discord. It should be in the links and all that. And then also make sure you guys go to AZ Snake Pit, check out the articles because, again, once the season does come around, we're going to be doing a lot more, articles and a lot more content specifically on the D-backs. But in the meantime, we have been D-backs Dispatch. Brett and my man Gabe. Brandon isn't here. Enjoy your trip. Josh, our producer extraordinaire, who made that beautiful Christian Walker song that we will be putting out on all our socials. So if you guys didn't hear it at the beginning of the show and weren't here for it, again, check us out on Twitter because we will have it on there. But we will see you guys soon for another episode of D-backs Dispatch.
It's the D-backs Dispatch. Let's go. Yeah, bring the red game. Josh on the floor. West Coast vibes, catch us on the air. Home running dogs, diamond gems we share. Brandon was a stat, Caesar man was a plan. Red breaks it down, tells it like it is, man. Gabs on fire, brings the heat every time. Josh on the mix, keep the beat so prime. I got the insights every week's a hit. Tune in, D-backs Dispatch, this is it. Now we rollin'. D-Backs, dispatch, yeah. Talk for Brandon, Brandon Gay, this is Big Catch. Josh on the mix, he make the beats. West Coast Vibe, got the G fucking the pad. The home Mac, the home Mac, the home Mac, home Mac. D-Backs, dispatch, we here to stay. Yeah, catch us every week, we bring the flavor to it. We got the home Mac, the home Mac, the home Mac, home Mac. D-Backs, dispatch, we here to stay. Catch us every week, we bring the flavor to it.